Good morning. Happy Friday. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Proven Lead Generation that Attracts New Relationships. My name is Sean O'Brien, President of QuickRate, and I'm pleased to be joined today by Dan Marks, President of Infusion Marketing Group. Dan's going to do the heavy lifting today. I'm going to open and close with you. Just a couple of reminders. One, certainly throughout the presentation, if you have any questions or comments, you go ahead and use the Q&A feature of the chat function. We'll be monitoring those. Secondly, everyone who's registered will receive a copy of today's slides and a link to the recording. Likely later, today's Friday, but likely on Monday. So look for that. So thank you for registering and attending. And to get started, as per usual, we just got one quick poll question for you that we'd love your participation on. And let me go ahead and launch that. How satisfied are you with your current new relationship generation? So just go ahead and if you don't mind, go ahead and answer that. We'll give it 30 to 45 seconds, and then we'll turn it over to Dan and get the presentation started. Well, for participating, we'll go ahead and share those results. So a little bit across the board, some confidence at 14%, and then a tie really with worried, will not meet expectations, low confidence, and we need a plan. So great that you're here today. I'm going to turn it over to Dan, and hopefully we can give you some ideas and some thoughts to help. Dan, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. Yeah, so and I guess probably that's some self-selection there. You know, if somebody has a high confidence of plan, they're not attending this webinar. So this should be good stuff. So let me, kind of open with a scenario. And I don't know if you can talk actually, but maybe we do the emoji if this resonates. But how many times have we been sitting around the conference table or on the Zoom call or Teams call and somebody says, "Oh, we really need to get more new to bank households, or we need to get more new to bank relationships. We got to go do some stuff." And so that kicks off a flurry of activity, and then some time goes by, and then people are bummed because nothing really has changed, right? Does that scenario ever happen at your bank? Because it has happened at the banks that I've worked for. So a little bit before I joined Infusion, I was with what is now First Horizon Bank and also what is now Hancock Whitney Bank. We actually did that brand when I was there, and so that scenario I've seen play over and over. And so what it's led us to coin is random acts of lead generation just create frustration for everyone involved, right? The idea that we're just going to go create a flurry of activity without a true systematic plan just makes, it creates frustration for the sales team. It doesn't feel like they're getting enough leads. It creates frustration for the marketing team, who feels like they're doing a lot of activity and not getting appreciated for what they're doing. It's frustrating for everyone involved. But there's a better way. So we have found through working with hundreds of banks and some credit unions over the years that that creating a predictable new relationship generation engine is not only possible, but has happened repeatedly over time with the right discipline. And with the right discipline is the key concept there. So what does that look like? A repeatable process starts with a systematic set of analysis to really dimension what is the opportunity, and then how much of that opportunity are we realistically going to go after in a time period. And what we found, and and this was when I found this when I was at the bank, not just at Infusion, but having the outside perspective on not just looking at my own information or what I can pull from my own data warehouse or CRM system, but having that external perspective, not just to understand the counts and market sizes, but also that external perspective on what has worked well for others is really critical in that planning process. We talk about doing an opportunity assessment as to help clients do that planning process, jumpstart that, provide that external perspective. But whether or not you engage us or do it yourself, having a true systematic data-driven process to dimension what is the opportunity, what can we realistically get, that's a planning process, and then going and executing. So executing a systematic series of campaigns that tie together marketing lead gen and then the sales activity, what's the connectivity to the sales process, and then tracking that result. And you'll notice it's a continuous process. So it's a do, track, refine. That's the process. That's the discipline of, and one of the key things there is that track and refine, because back to random acts of lead generation just create frustration for everyone. Having the sense that we're going to try some things and refine based on a systematic track and refinement to optimize over time is really key. And so to help us understand kind of the foundation of that planning process, I've pulled in an expert who I'm sure you'll love to hear from this morning.
So Rupert, y'all take your darts over here pretty seriously, huh? This and what's the billiard game y'all do that sounds like a brand of cookies?
Snooker?
That's it. That's the one. Yeah, boy, I'd love to curl up on a couch under a weighted blanket, watch You've Got Mail, and devour a box of Snookers. See what we got here. Hey, there it is.
Do you like darts, Ted?
Oh, they're okay. I'm more of a cornhole man myself. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. How about a game? I mean, we could, maybe wager, say, £10,000?
Well, as my doctor told me when I got addicted to fettuccine Alfredo, that's a little rich for my blood. How about this? If you win, I'll let you pick the starting lineup of the last 2 games of the season. But if I win, you can't go anywhere near the owner's box, at least not while Rebecca's still in charge.
Ted, what the hell are you doing?
Well, I believe some folks call it white knighting, but I don't know. I'm just following my gut here. It's okay.
Ted.
So, no, what do you think?
You're on.
Okay.
Double in, double out.
Whatever you say, Rupert Dukes. Yeah. Just let me know if I'm winning or losing, all right?
Oh, I forgot I had these on me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait a second. I forgot I'm left-handed. Oh, it's gonna be a hoot.
180!
William Rupert, get in!
Shut your stupid little twat mouth or I will shut it for you.
Shall I be giving you the lineup card now, Ted? I shall be putting your Basanya back on defense where he belongs.
That's exactly what I said, didn't I?
No, it's not all Ted's fault. My ex-wife's the one who brought the hillbilly to our shores.
Hey! Better manners when I'm holding a dart. Please. Mate, what do I need to win?
2 triple 20s and a bullseye.
Good luck.
You know, Rupert, guys have underestimated me my entire life. And for years, I never understood why. It used to really bother me. But then one day, I was driving my little boy to school, and I saw this quote by Walt Whitman. It was painted on the wall there. It said, "Be curious, not judgmental." I like that. So I get back in my car, and I'm driving to work, and all of a sudden, it hits me. All them fellas that used to belittle me, not a single one of them were curious. You know, they thought they had everything all figured out, and so they judged everything, and they judged everyone. And I realized that they're underestimating me. Who I was had nothing to do with it. Because if they were curious, they would ask questions. You know? Questions like, Have you played a lot of darts, Ted? To which I would have answered, yes, sir. Every Sunday afternoon at a sports bar with my father from age 10 till I was 16 when he passed away. Barbecue sauce. Good game, Ruben.
Come on, let's go.
So we love Ted Lasso in that scene because he's the underdog and he comes out on top, right? And so I love that analogy for community banks because people, in some sense, think that you're the underdog, but there's actually a great opportunity. And so Ted, one thing that's kind of the undercurrent there is he put in the work, right? He had a lot of practice, which allowed him to execute. But his point on curiosity is spot on. So when we talk about lead generation, having the curiosity to asking the right questions is where the planning process starts, where identifying the opportunity starts. And actually, what might be a little surprising, we're talking about lead generation, is we believe the first key question to ask an opportunity is, have I maximized my relationship expansion opportunities? Because every bank that we've ever analyzed has opportunity to grow, expand relationships they already have. And then a related question is, what is the cost per account or CPA and or full ROI on existing cross-sell programs? So am I maximizing my penetration of current relationships? And then what is my ROI on cross-sell programs? The reason for that is because the old adage of it's cheaper to sell something to somebody that you already have a relationship is absolutely true. And so understanding the foundation of systematically growing, generating leads and additional growth from current clients is a great foundation. It's a highly efficient foundation that allows community banks to have leverage against everybody that the wider world thinks should have an advantage. And so that's a foundational. We'll talk more about that. Leading into, once you have that foundation in place, what is the opportunity to reach high propensity prospects in my trade area? And the key there is high propensity, because the old spray and pray approach of I'm going to buy media across the entire marketplace or try to reach every prospect in my marketplace is just a great way to waste money. In fact, every community bank out there has opportunities to understand where is their best propensity prospects, understand specifically what those are, and build a plan to reach those specific prospects, whether they're consumers or businesses. And that gives them a better bang for the buck as they start the systematic journey that we're talking about. And then key is, how am I prepared to systematically retain and expand those new relationships? So when I acquire them, I have an onboarding process in place to make sure that they're welcomed in and accelerate that relationship expansion, so that we're protecting new relationships are the least sticky by definition. And so we want to get them on and up and feeding into that systematic relationship expansion program. So those are the three key buckets of questions and on our curiosity journey to help understand the planning process. I talked about capacity propensity. That's a really powerful concept, because what we found over and over, to help somebody buy something from us, it's useful to understand what is their ability, i.e., what's their capacity to buy for that specific need, and their propensity or their inclination. And so when we analyze capacity and propensity, there's really three key financial needs that every bank satisfies. By meeting the savings and liquidity needs of our high depositors, we fund the balance sheet. About 95% of your deposits are held by your high depositors. Now the mix is going to be different for every bank, but that Pareto principle is there. Doesn't mean that early savers are not important, but in terms of funding the balance sheet, meeting the savings and the savings need of that high depositor is critical to funding the balance sheet. We of course use those deposits to that inventory to lend out to the active borrowers, the active credit, the people who actually use us for balance sheet lending products. Obviously, we can also use that inventory to buy securities or syndicated debt or other things, or even sell that excess liquidity on the CD marketplace at quick rate. But the transactors is really the source of, as we move money around, that's really a key fee driver. So as we're meeting the money movement needs, the operating account, the checking account, the card payment needs of our customers, they're really driving a lot of fee income. And the intersection of those needs, the overlap, is relationship banking. So as we think about, we may bring a prospect in meeting one need, but then over time, as we can meet more of those needs, people and businesses that we meet all three fundamental needs for basically have to die to leave the bank. I mean, they're the stickiest. They're 5 times stickier than a single service relationship. And awareness is the application of this data. So as we use the data to understand capacity and propensity for particular needs, we then have to apply awareness to convert that potential sale into an actual sale. So we take that process, and we talk about understanding relationship expansion needs, comparing internal data at the bank to external benchmarks like the Infusion national norm helps provide that perspective of how penetrated I am. And so this example on page 8 is a systematic understanding of where this particular, and this is a real bank. It's obviously we're not disclosing that for privacy reasons, but in this particular case, that bank had 20% fewer relationships in the all three center of the circle than their peers. They had 30% lower combinations of high deposit and active borrowers. They're actually 4% better in terms of relative strength on the transactor buckets, in both the high deposit and the transactor only. So that's a great foundation. If you have the transaction account, you can build that wallet otherwise. And so you can see there's 20 and 30% growth potential in those buckets of all three, and the high deposit plus active borrower, and then some of the other slices there. This is a growth potential embedded at the bank just for getting somebody up to the peer average. And so that's the power of having the opportunity assessment for penetration informed by external data and the peers. Digging a little deeper, looking specifically at deposit concentration. What we've done here is we've tiered in this case, consumer households by what's the total level of deposits they have with the bank. And so you'll notice in this particular case, this bank had 96% of their deposits held by the top 36% of households. So that's what's circled in the bottom. So it's circled over here. And then on the top end, less than 10% of their households control over 70% of deposits, right? So highly concentrated. That's important for several reasons. One is, how penetrated am I? Okay, selling a checking account, and you'll notice in the percent with checking, they don't have 100% penetration of checking in any one of these buckets. And so there's an opportunity to sell a checking account, and selling a checking account to a high deposit household has both a powerful growth potential as well as a defensive potential, because selling that checking account helps defend that relationship by meeting that transactor needs, as well as look at the growth potential. The average checking balance of a household in that top tier is $169,000. The average checking balance of a high deposit household for this particular bank is $42,000. Selling another checking account to a high deposit household is worth a multiple of value to just a general checking account. And so that's really powerful. And then meeting the credit needs, it's really powerful to meet the credit needs there because while high deposit households tend to use credit a little bit less, they have really attractive credit quality, right? If somebody has at least $10,000 with the bank, they're going to be a better relative credit risk than somebody who has no deposits with the bank. But then also you're putting you're building another moat in that relationship by meeting that borrowing need. You're adding a key element to the relationship, which makes it that much harder for that relationship to leave. And so you're defending a $500,000 of deposit balance relationship by meeting that credit need, by meeting that checking need. And so that's some of the flywheel effects of driving more growth within the current book. And that's deposit concentration. We can drill in and look at the granular product penetration within specifically that group of high deposit households to further uncover growth potential. And so page 11 is benchmarking the product penetration in the high deposit households. And you notice there's a huge cross-sell gap. We could double growth or double balances in the savings and money market category just to get to peer average. And now CDs are over penetrated. And so that's a margin opportunity. If we maintain those CDs and grow the savings and money market, which will have a lower cost of funds, that creates leverage in the margin by itself and net growth. But also there's an opportunity to potentially remix it. And so if we're more aggressive at lowering cost of CDs, we can remix that balance sheet and drive really powerful relationship growth as well as overall NIM expansion, which of course is a key priority right now. So this is an example of embedded growth opportunity that's revealed by the right systematic prospect. The right approach. The other part of that equation is to understand what is the actual ROI or the financial impact from existing cross-sell programs. So there's an opportunity identification. There may be current cross-sell programs going on. And so understanding what is the impact. And so the tracking, as we illustrate on this page, is going way beyond just how many people are we reaching, how many clicks are being generated, but looking at the actual accounts that are open that match back to marketing programs, and then the impact on the overall relationship. So we're driving new account openings. How is that impact in terms of net household increase, overall penetration of services? Where are they on that journey toward the center of the circle? And so an example of a dashboard for an effective cross-sell program is shared on slide 13. As you'll notice, it's a systematic targeted set of programs that happen on a regular basis, kind of an always-on approach, where reaching a specific set of households for a checking cross-sell, for a debit card cross-sell or activation, deposits, loans. There's specific audiences identified that we're able to reach. And then if you traverse the dashboard, understand what is the actual response accounts, how many people are opening accounts based on the stimulus, what are the balances in those accounts, i.e. responder balances, what are halo balances. Halo balances are balances that are not promoted but were also opened when the lead was driven into the sales channel. And then we can compare that to the actual marketing cost. And so you'll notice, and this is a real world example from a client we work with and have worked with for a number of years on cross-sell. They use our pay per performance billing approach. And so you'll notice there's a fixed cost per account. So they pay for accounts generated. And then there's a cap in place that actually, so you notice there's a couple of quarters of programs where there's no charge because they hit their cap. And so, they're seeing an average $57 in cost per account. And so when you compare a $500 or more contribution value for new account generated to a $57 cost average, that's a huge amount of leverage. And that's why we say selling that next product and service to current relationships should be a foundation, because that's very cheap. And we'll see actually the comparison in a little bit between relationship expansion and those things. But understanding what's the macro opportunity and what's the actual ROI on any existing cross-sell efforts is a key foundation leading into, okay, then what do we do to go external to build relationships, generate leads from prospects? And so what's different with prospects, and this reflects thousands of campaigns analyzed over since 2007 at Infusion, even before at banks and predecessor firms, but acquisition inherently takes more time to work than cross-sell. Part of that is because with cross-sell, everybody already knows you. You have 100% awareness you're building on. With prospecting, we don't know what every specific prospect business or consumers, what their starting level of awareness is. And it would be practically impossible to survey every single household and get a response from every single household. And because every bank has a unique value proposition, we can jumpstart that process with some analytical techniques and the learnings from working with hundreds of banks and analyzing campaigns every quarter through our campaign tracking norm. We can jumpstart that process, but there's always an optimization journey that goes lower to higher. And that's why we say a disciplined, systematic process is so critical, because your first effort in prospect acquisition may be disappointing if understood in isolation. But you're building that awareness, you're building learnings, you're building a test case. And so when we think about optimization, particularly in prospect acquisition, we're focused on 4 key channels. So what's the audience or list segmentation? That's foundation. Who are we reaching? Making sure we're reaching people that have the capacity and propensity to do business with us, and tweaking that over time with learnings. What's the channel mix? So reaching people on more than one channel of communication is essential. The days of just doing one channel and hoping it works are long gone. And so the good news is with digital media, we have a lot of ways to reach very precise audience. The offer and the creative. So what is the actual value proposition? And then if there's a special incentive to take action immediately, what is that? And then creative. How is it presented in a way that's compelling and builds your brand, all in a nice package? So those 4 optimization levers we'll walk through just some examples of how do we tackle that on a journey towards success. So I talked earlier about what's understanding high propensity prospects. Every bank out there has pockets of customers and micro segments or personas, if you will, where they have a unique advantage or punching above their weight, if you will. We apply a really systematic process to do lookalike modeling. We append data to your current customers, and that's using data sources that are also available for every prospect. And so this approach is similar for businesses and consumers, although the data appended is different. So we append that data, and then we identify what are those clusters of your current customers that you have better than average penetration in, and we stack rank that. And so it's not uncommon, like on this chart where if you could read it, the top cluster is 346% more prevalent at the bank than that population in the audience. And typically banks have 10 to 20 persona clusters on the consumer side, and a little different on business, but there's 10 to 20 clusters where they're really well advantaged. And so by using that to jumpstart the process, we help you make sure that the dollars are put in the right place where you're going to get the best bang for the buck. Well, how does that work in the real world? Here, this slide shows some back testing we did. So we took this process, we identified 20 of these personas that looked like they were gonna punch above their weight for a particular bank. And in this particular case, the bank wanted to actually still sample every persona in the marketplace. So it was a great test case. Well, you'll notice that 19 out of the 20 clusters, or all but one, were in the top or on the left side of this graph. So highly, the diamonds represent the clusters of demographics that the analysis predicted would perform the best for this bank. And you'll notice that all but one did indeed perform above average for the bank. The actual performance is the blue bars. And then the other key element that we've found to be effective in helping banks jumpstart this process is understanding the normative average. So the gray bars are the average performance for banks. And so you'll notice that there are a few personas that tend to perform better for banks that actually perform better for this bank as well. So those are the ones that are not diamonds. But then there's a whole bunch of above average personas on the right that did not perform as well for the bank. And so that's why I say your bank has a unique brand, a unique value proposition. It resonates uniquely in the marketplace. And so understanding we can jumpstart that process, but then systematically saying, okay, what actually works in the real world, doing this kind of granular analysis, and then refining that targeting over time based on where's the most relevancy for that particular bank in terms of a lot of different metrics, including personas and other things that we look at. But that's an example of how prediction helps, but then continuous refinement is really key to unlocking the long-term advantage in the journey. I talked about channel optimization. So we do channel testing all the time because we get paid on performance. We really care about understanding what actually drives performance versus what is potentially could drive performance. And so this is an example of a test, and we've done these kind of tests over and over again. We find very similar results across banks, across geographies. Here we did two sets. Everything was the same. So the creative package was the same. The offer was the same. The list was the same. It was split randomly. But in the A group, we included OTT video or connected TV. This is this is 30-second TV spots delivered straight to a box through your Roku or smart TV or anything like that. And to deliver to specific households, not a geographic area. And then on the right, and then the B group had that same mix of digital media, but instead of the connected TV, it had a traditional direct mail postcard. And you'll notice the balances were close to 40% better in the group that included the OTT video. The reason for that, in prospecting, you're introducing yourself. And so it's a great way to provide an emotionally compelling, you're selling on brand, you're selling on your story. And we see that in the data. So it actually has a measurable sales impact, a measurable response lift compared to kind of the legacy postcard approach. And so this is a multi-channel mix, and we control for that. So this is an example of the testing that we do, and even so multi-channel for a long time has outperformed single channel, but then even the composition of those channels is constantly being tested. I talked about offer and creative, and so because we're doing this for banks all over, we're able to bring to bear, first of all, a creative package that is uniquely tailored to your brand, right? So brand support, brand coherence is key. You're introducing yourself to the marketplace, or you're staying top of mind. So it's got to be seamless with the way that you want to go to market. There's also some best practices that we've gleaned on just the right way to present that offer, that message that actually has a measurable sales and response impact. And so, this is an example of a mix that includes that OTT TV. You'll notice it's an actual footage of the banks, being in the community. And so this is a very efficient way to have that seamless connection with the community. And then the companion digital ads on Facebook, Instagram, targeted display reinforce that same message in a complementary way with a direct call to action. In a different context, you'll notice this bank has a different brand context. There's some best practices in presenting the message, but it's uniquely their brand. And then we have a lot of intelligence around what's the right way to present small business offers. So this is an example of a multi-channel outreach to attract business prospects. And here's another example for a different brand. This is from a relationship expansion campaign, but you'll notice different brand, complete brand feel, but presented across multiple channels with a compelling call to action, different brand, and then finally, so you'll notice I shared quickly those different examples just to illustrate that the systematic lead generation effort has to support the overall brand goals, but can do that in a way that also drives performance. And so tying it all together, when we talk about building a systematic plan, we're using the specific segments of identified opportunities of so this exactly in this case, there were 10,246 specific households identified with the capacity propensity to buy checking from that they already have a relationship for. They didn't have the checking account, and on down for each one of these products, and then we're applying that data, and then applying a multi-channel outreach across email, display, Facebook, Instagram, as an example, to reach this audience across multiple channels of communication continuously. And then that audience gets updated as people move in and out of the criteria. But that kind of a plan, whether or not it's for relationship expansion or prospecting, it gets backed up with so a key part of the planning process is doing a pro forma to say, okay, if we do this plan, what's the impact? And so relationship expansion added, in this particular case, this is a real pro forma from a client. The plan added up to $256 million of balance expansion potential, representing $4.2 million of spread. That ROI equates to over 500%, 558% first year return on marketing investment. And that's the kind of ROI from relationship expansion. Compare that to page 26. Prospect lead generation, prospect acquisition is profitable as well, but notice it's two key things. And one is it's lower overall than relationship expansion. And so that's why we say it's important to understand am I maximizing my relationship expansion efforts. The other thing is because of this optimization journey, the first year is always lower than the first year is always lower than the second year. The reason is a lot of calories are spent in that first year with dialing in the exact right combination of audience and channel mix and creative package that works best for any particular bank. And so that's that optimization journey, because you're building awareness and building what works for a specific brand. But having a specific plan with specific opportunities, and okay, this is what the plan is going after. That's one of those things that helps avoid frustration, because on the front end, everybody has a stake in it, is understanding, okay, what are the potential options? What is the plan gonna give me in terms of boosting new to bank household acquisition? And then as we're executing, we're tracking results against this plan. And so a quick example of how when we apply this process, what's the output? We had a bank client that needed to boost new to bank acquisition, very much like the poll results you all shared. They had done some random acts of marketing. They had tried some things. They were dissatisfied with the tracking and accountability. It felt just kind of like, hey, I'm doing a lot of activity. I don't really know what I'm getting. And more importantly, I don't really know what I can do differently to get more outcomes in the future. And so we went through this process that we talked about today, starting with that detailed demographic lookalike analysis to develop a best fit profile and then track and result over time. In the first year, their new to bank households went up 19% after being down 3 or 4% the year before. So that's a 25% lift in macro new to bank households in the first year. More importantly, the cost per account from that optimization journey dropped in half. And so that creates a very strong foundation to then grow into year two after dialing in what's worked. And so how those KPIs look kind of graphically, if you look on page 28, the balance impact doubled so the Q4 balance impact from the program doubled compared to Q1. Some of that was driven by the number of accounts went up. The number of accounts generated per drop went up 30%, but also the quality improved. So that's that. At the same time, the cost per account dropped in half. This case study is a little bit old. We do work with clients on a pay per performance basis as well, where for somebody who's committed to the journey, we will actually invest our money and get paid on accounts generated, and so we're able to help kind of put our money where our mouth is on those kind of CPA improvements over kind of a full year program. So that's an example of tangibly how this approach creates a predictable discipline outcome where everybody knows what's going on. They know the step along the way. They know what actions are being taken on that optimization journey to get to where the plan says they can get to and all the benchmarking says. So as we get to the end of our time here, we are going to have a little bit of time for some Q&A. Some key takeaways. Stay curious. So thinking about the dimensionalizing what is the plan, having the curiosity to ask the right questions to build a robust opportunity assessment for a set of pro formas on what are we trying to achieve is really foundational. And we believe part of that is making sure that even before we start talking about generating leads from prospects, we understand what is the opportunity to expand current relationships and drive business, because adding that checking relationship from a current client can be just as valuable, if not more valuable, than attracting that prospect. Because like we talked about the deposit concentration table, first of all, they tend to be more valuable than a brand new prospect, but also it's that defensive element. So we're defending an existing relationship by building that relationship. So there's a retention benefit as well as a growth, and it tends to be a lot cheaper than prospect acquisition. But then when you're ready to do a systematic prospect lead generation program, employing a systematic discipline process that understands that there's a journey building from the initial efforts, applying those learnings, and optimizing to get to 2 or 3 or 4 times better in the future. And fundamentally undergirding all this is a data-driven, financially accountable marketing program should be a key growth driver for the bank. And so, if that resonates, we would love to talk to you further about how to do an actual opportunity assessment. But what questions do you have?
Yeah, hey, go ahead. Just as a reminder, if you do have any questions, go ahead and click on the Q&A box or the chat feature. We'll take them from there. Also, too, as Dan indicated, if you would like to schedule a brief call to learn more about the opportunity assessment, you can go ahead and respond here. Just a reminder, as everything that Dan talked about here today, obviously incredibly powerful, starts with you, sharing some data so that we can, again, kind of build that plan that Dan's kind of laid out today. So, that's really kind of the first step. So we'd love to be able to talk to you about it. I am not seeing any questions are in the chat, Dan. So any final comments before we let everybody off to their Friday?
No, just thanks for the time. Hopefully this was helpful as you're thinking about, needing a second opinion on your plan. We would love to talk to you further about how we could help. If you're looking for a new plan or need a plan in general, we can put that together for you relatively quickly, building on all these insights and industry experiences. And we would, since you attended the webinar, we would do that complimentary. So, as we follow up, we'll send out a copy of the presentation, but would love to talk further, myself or Trevor Knott, who's on the phone as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a really critical point too, right? There's really no cost for you to get started. We're going to do the heavy work and heavy lifting. So again, really would welcome the opportunity to assist. But as you can see, Dan's contact information and Trevor's, and you can certainly reach out to them, and we can get an opportunity assessment started. Well, thank you all again for joining our presentation today. We hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy the NCAA tournament, and we will look forward to seeing you on the next Infusion Marketing Group webinar. Have a great day.